All right, welcome back to the show. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Lloyd Alexander, Book 1 in his Chronicles of Prydain, the Book of Three. Now, about a year and a half ago on the channel, I did a kind of a general overall review of all 5 books, but I've decided to reread these books one at a time and do a little bit more of an in-depth review on each one because they are that important to the genre of fantasy in general. I mean, these are some of the original, like with Tolkien and a lot of these old-time fantasy writers. Lloyd Alexander, man, he was back in that generation, and these are some classic novels. Now, the first ever fantasy novel I read when I was a kid was The Sword of Shannara. And if you followed my channel, you know my history with that book. The second fantasy novels I read were The Lord of the Rings. The third fantasy series I read was Lloyd Alexander, The Chronicles of Prydain, because I remember going to the bookstore, loving these covers, and we're going to talk about the covers. These books came out in 1964. These covers are iconic fantasy covers, all done by John Leon Hunes. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I don't know. John Leon Hunes. Got the Black Cauldron, great cover. The Castle of Lear, great cover. Turan Wanderer, one of the dopest covers ever. And then The High King. Yeah, these covers, I love these covers. I love these books. We'll set them there because we're going to be talking about book number 1. This collection of books, I got to tell you, I bought these when I was a kid, folks. I still have them, and they're still all in mint condition. Some of my most prized possessions on the planet. I just recommend, if you people are buying books, save them. Save them. Do not give them away. If they're books that you love, hold on to them and cherish them. Now, if you read books and you don't much care for them and you don't think you'll ever reread them, by all means, sell them on eBay, give them to libraries, donate them to prisons. I don't give a fuck. But if you love books, don't ever let the original copies you buy leave your hands, because I'm going to tell you, man, books, they're being replaced by Audible books, being replaced by ebooks. Soon, these things will be a thing of the past, and all of them will be valuable, and you'll wish you had them. These physical ones. That's a rant that has nothing to do with the review. What we want to talk about is Turan, the Pig Keeper, represented by this little guy here. Now, Turan is an orphan farm boy. So we're starting out on familiar ground with the fantasy, an orphan farm boy with a destiny. He wants to be a sword fighter. He wants to make swords in the forge, but he's stuck making horseshoes, and he just doesn't like that. And Cole, his sort of the guy that's taking care of him, schooling him on farming and blacksmithing and all that stuff, is like, all right, go ahead, try to make a sword. And so Turan tries to make a sword, doesn't work out, fails at it, learns a few life lessons, and then we get to talking about the mysterious Book of Three. And then the adventure begins. Lloyd Alexander, if you want to read a book that is mysterious, full of wonder, full of magic, full of everything you love about fantasy, you've got to read these series. This is the quintessential young adult series. This has got more charm to it than Harry Potter or any of the... just the entire young adult section in a Barnes & Noble combined cannot compare to how magical the Chronicles of Prydain are. These things are set in an alternate Wales, if you know where Wales is, with all the Welsh history. It's dripping with just Welsh history and Welsh characters and Welsh names, and it's just gorgeously written, and just they don't write books like this anymore. The young adult books that are being written now are so fucking lifeless in comparison to these. I promise you, you gotta read these if you want to read a young adult author that knows how to write crisp prose and beautiful prose. And just, I just can't explain to you how much better these are. No, I'm not saying Harry Potter's bad. Harry Potter's got some great writing too, but in that young adult section of the bookstores, folks, this is 10 times better. Just don't even read that other shit. Anyway, what I'm talking about is the Book of Three. Some of the most beautiful, gorgeous writing ever by one of the greatest writers in fantasy, one of the classic fantasy writers, Prydain, the main character, the orphan farm boy. He wants to go on adventure, and like everybody that wants to go on adventure, once they get on their adventure, they're like, oh crap, we're on adventure now. So his pig, the pig that he's supposed to take care of, is named Hen Wen. She runs away. And so he goes off chasing her into the forest, and there he meets the Horned King. The Horned King is represented there on the cover beautifully by our artist. On this beautiful cover. The Horned King, and the Horned King does, creepy, crawly stuff, and then the Prince Prydain comes along, and Prydain is whisked off into an adventure where he meets some of the great iconic fantasy characters. Just as not as iconic as Frodo and all those in Legolas and Aragorn, but I mean, these guys are comparative with Prince Prydain, Mellingar, his horse Mellingar, the little creature Gurgi is kind of like the golem creature, and then we've got the Cauldron born, people that are born in the Black Cauldron. They've got the Cauldron, and the Cauldron born are born out of these cauldrons, and they're monsters. And then we've got the Fluter Flam and Dolly, and a whole bunch of just a great evil queens. We've got evil queens and evil castles, mysterious castles, giants and fair folk like the elves. We got everything in these books. And one of my first ever literary crush. The first ever time I ever had a literary crush on a person in a book, and that was the beautiful young damsel, red-haired girl, feisty little red-haired girl, Ellen Y. I think it's Ellen Y. I don't know how to pronounce Welsh names. It's spelled E-I-L-O-N-W-Y. That might not even be the way it's spelled. But I think it's Elon Y or Ellen Y. And we can see her on that cover. And as a kid reading these books, man, I wanted my girlfriend to be Ellen Y. She is the relationship between Prydain and Ellen Y is magical. It is contentious. It is heartfelt. It is charming. It just has all the personality that you want from a girl and a young girl and a young boy in a relationship. It's got all of the angst and all of the conflict and all of the admiration. It's got all of that. And when I read these books, and I wanted a girlfriend just like Ellen Y. I wanted a feisty little red-haired girlfriend. Part of the reason I love these books. And so she shows up, searching for her baubles in the dungeons. Yeah, we got dungeons. We got all sorts of creepy, crawly goodness in these fantasy books. The Book of Three, book number 1. I just love these. I love these. I'm so glad that I bought these when I was a kid, and I've kept them around for, I don't know what, I'm probably like 120 years old now. So I've had these for a long time. So anyway, the Book of Three, 10 out of 10. I mean, did you think it was going to be anything different? 10 out of 10. And then we're going to read The Black Cauldron soon, and we're going to review that too.